I then had an email from the Catholic Church, and they said, oh yes, send a letter to the church where you're baptised, and the priest will make an annotation in the margin saying that you have resigned from the church. When I started looking at this, I realised that it was a worldwide movement. In Catholic countries, where the church has real big sway and does have political influence, there's organised movements of debaptism where people are resigning from the church, hand over fist. They're atheists, they're feminists, they're gays. Everybody who's got something against the church are asking to be debaptised. And this is happening in Venezuela, it's happening in Spain, it's happening in Italy, where of course the Vatican routinely interferes in the legal processes there.
But it makes a difference, doesn't it? The funding from the government to the church is then affected, isn't it, by the number of people on their register, as it were?
Yeah, well, that's what they hope will happen. In places like Germany, where they have an official church tax, which you have to pay unless you opt out, this could be very useful. You know, people, and of course the Norwegian humanist movement is huge. There are about 60,000 members. And that's because if you join the humanists, you don't have to pay the church tax. So, you know, there is a point to this debaptism. The church appears to have an awful lot of power. There are 26 million people in this country who are being baptised before they had a say in the matter. And that's half the population. So the church always says, we don't use these figures. We don't use these figures to gain any kind of privilege. We only use our membership figures. So Ruth Gledhill, the religion correspondent on the time, did a little bit of digging. And she found that, oh, indeed, they do use baptismal figures to gain privileges. The World Council of Churches allocates its seats based on the number of baptisms in the church. And they go along there saying, oh, we've got 26 million people in Britain. I mean, can you imagine it? They have less than 1 million people in their pews on the average Sunday, and yet apparently they've got 26 million members. You know, there must be an awful lot of urgent knitting to do on a Sunday amongst C of E congregants. Anyway, that's one of the things that we did this week, and one of the things that creates the dichotomy between the atheists and the secularists, the pure secularists. One which we haven't yet got to the bottom of, which I think will cause more aggro the more we talk about it, but it has got to be settled. Other secular societies around the world include India, which has gone very much along the American route. It's about pluralism. It's about trying to accommodate a lot of religions without having warfare between them. The Turks, on the other hand, have gone down the French route with separation. And in all these countries, France, Turkey, America, and India, the constitutions are under extreme pressure from religious interests in all those countries. Secularism is on the defensive with this resurgence, but I'm a little bit heartened by the Americans since Obama was elected, because he does have a secularist turn to his rhetoric. He will say, you know, that my religion will not inform the decisions I have to make in my political life. And I find that very reassuring. So maybe the First Amendment will begin to mean something again, because while Bush was there, he allowed religion, the religious element of the country, to become a little bit too powerful in the corridors of power in the White House. There needs to be a balance. But we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But it started out very well because Obama has overturned a lot of Bush's initiatives. He has made it no longer essential not to promote abortion in order to get overseas funding. And the faith-based welfare is another thing, where he's said that he will ensure that any organisations of religious nature that get federal money to run welfare services will, in fact, have to promise that they will not use that money for proselytising, and they will not discriminate against people they employ. Something similar is happening here. Although the Labour government has said, you know, we're going to go down this faith-based welfare route too. It's a cheap way, they think, of running social services. We now hear that they're producing a kind of, what do they call it? What do they call the faith works thing? Charter. They're producing a charter that every religious organisation that gets public money will have to sign to say that they're not going to discriminate and they're not going to misuse the money. Because we've heard reports of things like the Salvation Army gathering money for their night shelters, which are a very good thing, and then using it to print the war cry. So somebody has to keep an eye on this and ensure that taxpayers' money is not used inappropriately by faith-based groups. I mean, I don't like the idea of faith-based groups anyway, taking over what have generally been secular social services run by local authorities, where there was never any risk of anybody saying, you know, I'm sorry, this service is not available to you because you're not of the same, you're not of the right religion. So that's still not resolved, although it's moving in the right direction. I'm pleased to say we pressed very hard for that, and it's happening. So secularism, secularity, they've all got different meanings. They all have shades depending on the culture you live in. And I haven't got to the bottom of what they mean yet. But I'll stop there because I really want to learn from your experience too. I mean, you've obviously thought about it yourself, being members of the Leicester Secular Society, and I'd like very much to hear what you make of secularism, what you think it means, and how you think it can be implemented.